What's up, you guys? Today's TV show review is about a group of robots whom are battling in a war to protect their faction of descendants from demise, while adapting to a newly discovered planet and appearances for survival, and I'm talking about Transformers Beast Wars. Beast Wars aired in 1996, containing 3 seasons with a total of 52 episodes. Our story begins with 2 spaceships called the Darkside and the Axelon, led by the evil Predacons and the heroic Maximals respectively, as they are silhouetted within the shadows. With the Predacons in search for a powerful crystal source called Energon, with the aid of an artifact called the Golden Disc, they end up transwarping during their battle in space and head for a crash landing on an unknown planet. But before doing so, the Axelon releases a number of stasis pods into the orbit filled with maximal protoforms, otherwise known as characters without a physical appearance. This is to prevent the death of future comrades in case the Axelon and everyone else inside doesn't survive. With both ships crashing in different vicinities, because this mysterious planet is filled with so much raw energon, which can kill or cause permanent damage if staying active in robot mode, by taking the attributes and appearances of organic animal forms to prevent their system circuits from overfrying, scanning the natural environment around them to take new forms is their only chance of survival, otherwise known as their beast modes. So within the Maximals, who yell out the phrase maximize to transform into robot mode, part of the Autobots' descendants, keep in mind some characters have more than one form as they're transformed into the Transmetal 2 or Fusers upgrade. So within this group you have Optimus Primal, the leader, also known as Optimal Optimus, Rhinox, my favorite character, alongside Cheetor, Rattrap, Dinobot, Tigertron, and Air whom later fuse into Tigerhawk, Black Arachnia, the Maximal version, Silverbolt, and Depth Charge. Then you have the Predacons, whom yell the catchphrase Terrorize, also known as the ancestors of the Decepticons like Megatron the leader, Scorpanok, Terrasaur, Tarrantular, Waspinator, Black Arachnia, the Predacon version, Inferno, Quickstrike, Rampage, also known as Protoform X, and last but not least, Dinobot version 2. Throughout Season 1, aside from numerous battles and amazing fight sequences and effects, the main goal is to locate Energon, which can help them return back to Cybertron. The issue is, because it's so raw, any form of disturbance can cause it to explode. So the dilemma is not where the Energon is since it's scattered vastly throughout the land, but how to utilize it without disrupting it. And then there's the race to locate the incoming stasis pods, which is my favorite concept of the entire series. Since the Maximals had to release their comrades to save their lives, sometimes they also hit a disadvantage. I really enjoy how the show captures its significance because every stasis pod is technically a Maximal, and it's a chance to add new members, in which we've seen them get a hold of like Tigertron, Air and Silverbolt. But then there's also one episode involving the Transmutate, a confused underdeveloped robot unaware which side it belongs to, and the fate of this character is pretty emotional. But sometimes the Predacons can also get lucky with getting there first, as all they have to do is reprogram its DNA coding to a Predacon, which is how Black Arachnia, Inferno, and Quickstrike were enlisted. This pretty much sucks because to see the Maximals lose members in their roster to the other side is pretty painful. However, the cool thing is, it's really up to the characters to decide their own fate if they choose to switch sides, in which we've seen this occasion happen multiple times with the change of heart. With the character Tigertron, another one of my favorites, because the impact of the landing damaged the stasis pod, he winds up losing a bit of his memory and identity unaware who or what he truly is, a Maximal or an animal, so he doesn't join the group just yet and prefers the wilderness. And after losing one of his tiger companions, Snow Tracker, in a casualty, his bitterness towards war leaves him to wander the lands instead of participating in group meetings at the base. And another thing I really enjoyed is how certain characters have a consistent form of character development, which I'll get into a little bit later. But the real storyline here is what makes this show really great. The simplicity yet its cryptic surroundings seen throughout the episodes focusing on key elements of Season 1 makes you curious of where they truly are. For example, when exploring numerous terrains and stumbling upon unique structures such as a Stonehenge, a floating island that contains an obelisk with immense power or traps, a giant probe, and the Golden Disc artifact, they conclude that they are not alone. And on top of that, we learn that all 4 of them are connected to each other as a puzzle unbeknownst to many but a selective few like Megatron, Tarrantular, and Dinobot. Even though the Predacons find any and every way possible to screw over the Maximals for personal gain, whatever it may be, when a giant beam is sent into space, this really puts the Maximals into question as to just what exactly is this planet, or maybe the beam is a signal for a secret message, but to what? With this planet being more than what meets the eye, shit starts to get intense when discovering aliens are involved. Even though we see Optimus deal with many altercations, dilemmas, and rising up to the occasion when needing to be, although struggling to balance his ethics of killing versus abiding by the law, when the aliens arrive in their Metal Hunter base, Optimus's bravery is put to the test when he tries to make peace with them as they use the form of Unicron to converse. Despite not pleading to Optimus's promise to prevent Megatron from starting another war and safekeeping the location of Cybertron to the alien race, they object his compromise, thus resulting in the world to be destroyed. The season ends on a pretty dark cliffhanger as you can really feel Optimus's anger and frustration towards Megatron's shady tactics, especially when trying to save everyone around him from the aliens' destruction, and make no mistake, it really hits you in all the right emotions. And just when you think it couldn't possibly get any more intense and confusing, it definitely does. Season 2, otherwise known as the Dawn of the Transmetals, the explosion and death of Optimus causes the energy surge where a selective few characters change in appearance. And not only that, the show doesn't get afraid to kill off a few characters because unfortunately Terrasaur and Scorpanok fall to their deaths, and that's just scratching the surface. However, the thing that kind of disappoints me is that the death of Optimus could have been stretched out a lot longer because everyone was affected in their own way, and being without a leader certainly upped the stakes tremendously as their base is now vulnerable for an attack and defeat. But thanks to Rhinox, who pretty much is an extremely pivotal character for getting things done, he manages to locate Optimus through the core conscious within the Matrix to revive him. This is where the series gets intense as there's a lot of side plots, character development, and canon storytelling to the original G1 series. First, through a discovery, Tigatron and Airazor, whom build a romantic connection, get trapped and beamed into space, causing both of these amazing characters to disappear for the remainder of the seasons. Second, we get introduced to the anthropoids as time progresses, and with the fascinating turn of events, we learn that the planet they're on is actually prehistoric planet Earth. This builds the story perfectly for Megatron to take advantage, seeing how they're defenseless and uneducated, wanting to eradicate human existence. However, this is where Dinobot's story arc plays a crucial role, creating one of the biggest character developments of the show in regards to his allegiance. In the beginning, he starts off as a Predacon, but after grudging with Megatron about failing as a leader, he settles for joining the Maximals instead. Dinobot is the type of character that lives by the code of honor, and often gets into quarrels with the rest of the Maximals. However, his loyalty starts to shine as certain episodes sees his conflict between being a Maximal, but also having a heart of a Predacon. So we clearly see in instances when obtaining the golden disc, knowing it's a form of power, there's a lot of contemplation trying to do what's right versus greed to be a ruler. Oftentimes characters like Rattrap, who mind you may be very annoying, is actually a very useful Maximal in a lot of missions and smarter than he appears to be, often comes as skeptical of Dinobot's dedication and doesn't get too surprised if he betrays either sides, creating an interesting friendship between the two, but as a plot twist, it's all part of a specific reason. There's an episode where Dinobot has a huge reflection seeing the corruption within Megatron's desire to rule the world by overtaking the anthropoid species and their colony. Dinobot decides to destroy the golden disc heroically and pays the ultimate price and emotionally dies, leaving his death to be one of the most underrated characters of all time. Because of this, as a side story, one of the anthropoids sees a weapon Dinobot created to stop Megatron and ends up becoming a tool for them to defend themselves, learning the mechanics of inventions and communication. How crazy is that? The human race was developed by Dinobot's sacrifice. Frickin' badass. Third, we get introduced to the Tripedicus Council, a group of Predacons who have secret meetings awaiting for their rise and vengeance, as well as G1's characters such as Starscream and Ravage, also known as Agent Ravage. Serving as an undercover agent to the Tripedicus Council to arrest Megatron and briefly allies himself to the Maximals, once witnessing a deep secret within Megatron's archives that involves the G1 Megatron, the fate of Ravage takes a toll for the worse. However, a real shocker to this plot is learning who Tarrantular really is and what his purpose is to the Predacons, which is actually something that made me pretty surprised. Everything ends up making sense when prior to his own scheming tactics that Megatron wasn't aware of due to his own agendas, whether it's finding empty stasis pods, probes, or building his own underground base not associated to the dark side. Sometimes he even helps the Maximals to stop Megatron. What a sneaky bastard. Yet after knowing all this, Megatron still forgives him, like he does with everyone else for their treachery. When it comes to majority of the Predacons, they all betray each other in some shape or form as soon as they're indulged with ultimate power, and challenge Megatron for the throne, but you can guess how that turns out. But the special highlight of this show is seeing how the Maximals discover the well-known arc that includes the original G1 Autobots and Decepticons, and seeing some iconic and familiar characters laying around was simply amazing. The plot thickens learning Megatron's motives involving the G1 continuity, which is by erasing the existence of the Autobots and Maximals to change history, preventing the Autobots Autobots from awakening years from now in the year 1984, which will restart the war, which takes place in the original Transformers cartoon timeline. Holy shit! And again, another fantastic cliffhanger. So now, as we enter Season 3, with both Optimus and Megatron fusing their own sparks with their G1 counterparts, because Megatron now is one step ahead with plenty of secrets to hold underneath his spark, the Axelon base ends up getting destroyed with their defense systems called Sentinel in the wrong possession. This season dives a little deeper into certain characters like Depth Charge, who's constantly butting heads with Optimus, pissing him off as he was known as a pre-Marshal, until witnessing the slaughter of his ancestors by Protoform X, aka Rampage on Cybertron. And then there's the maturity level of Cheetor, changing after his upgrade, relating as if a teenager hits puberty. Since most refer to him as a kid and not taken seriously and even gets horny for Black Arachnia, this makes Silverbolt overprotective, obsessed, and slightly jealous, seeing how their storyline together gradually progresses when he tries to enlighten her on why she should be reformatted into a Maximal, seeing how he was once on the wrong side as well. Regardless of Black Arachnia having motives of her own after joining Tarrantular on multiple occasions, betraying Megatron, and questioning her loyalty, she ends up having a hard time due to alarming reasons. But thanks to the Transmetal driver, she successfully does so in her new form, safely returning to the Maximal name. Megatron, on the other hand, learned how to create an army of robotic raptors and even uses a fallen stasis pod host with the spark of Rampage to create something we wouldn't have expected, and that is the semi-return of Dinobot. By the end of the series, the aliens return for their final encounter, now known as the Vok. And with more surprises, we see the bodies of Tigertron and Airazor, whom disappeared earlier in Season 2, resurface. Their sparks end up fusing together, combining their robotic form into a new character named Tigerhawk, whom destroys the Predacons' Darkseid base. And not only that, Tigerhawk ends up shattering Tarrantular, and to see Optimus have a little breath of relief to see a returning ally is always heartwarming. Unfortunately, Tigerhawk's appearance is somewhat brief as he puts it upon himself to fight Megatron within the Nemesis, the G1 ship of the Decepticons discovered by the now-dead Tarrantular. Yeah, another secret he held to himself. Unaware how powerful it was, Tigerhawk is led to his demise, being blasted to bits and pieces, making Optimus extremely emotional. And this is probably the most you'll see Optimus in anger, as he's had enough, screaming his lungs out in disbelief, mourning the loss of his strongest ally. And not only that, so many characters take the death toll here, as Depth Charge finally puts an end to his grudge with Rampage, finally serving justice for his storyline. Inferno and Quickstrike get destroyed by Megatron's carelessness within the Nemesis, leaving the anthropoids to celebrate. Dinobot somewhat comes to his old senses and proves he's the best by once again sacrificing himself to save Optimus. And with a brutal one-on-one fight with Optimus, Megatron is finally defeated and is held as a prisoner on the Autobot shuttle as the Maximals finally head back to Cybertron in search for peace and a new start, for now. The funny part is, after getting his ass handed to him throughout the entire series, Waspinator is the only character to remain on Earth in happiness. And even though the Beast Wars may be over, the journey is just beginning. This show has to be in one of my all-time top 5 favorite TV series. There's so much action, amazing voice acting, heartfelt and emotional storytelling within respective characters to flesh out a little backstory, tricky tie-ins to a beloved franchise, and overall suspenseful music that makes you want to buy the toys as well. Even though the show contains a few fillers here and there and altercations within a creepy dream sequences or Rattrap playing video games, I can't stretch this enough that this show still holds up many years later. I know a lot of people hate this show or consider this to ruin Transformers, not being invested in animals compared to the vehicles, but with its unique innovation to 3D digital graphics and art style, I personally love it, as this is what made me love Transformers, and there's no harm in going in reverse. Therefore, Transformers Beast Wars gets a B+/A. Thanks for watching, give a like and subscribe for more series reviews, and stay tuned for the next episode.